Hey, welcome back to the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jeremy Goldberg, and it's episode number 5 of our 4-part series with my girlfriend, Kendra Adachi. We've done another one because you asked, and you asked specifically one of you or a couple of you to talk about sobriety and our relationships with drugs and alcohol, and what it means from an individual perspective, but also for our relationship. So in this one, we tell some stories of the old days and who we used to be and all of the mischief and madness that entailed. And it's all about sobriety. But thanks for listening. I'm glad you're here. If you've listened to the other 4 episodes, you know that it is real and raw and authentic, and it's kind of behind the veil of Instagram and social media perfection. We're trying to give you the real shit and explain who we really are and how we really think and feel and live. So hopefully this is helpful for you and gives you some ideas to consider with your own relationship with intoxicants or substances or emotions, relationships. And thanks for being here. And here's the episode. Have fun. Kendra Adachi.
Jeremy Goldberg.
Welcome back to the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast.
It's a pleasure and an honor.
This is our 5th conversation in our special series.
In our 4th special series, and so
4th special series.
Well, we were gonna do 4.
Oh yeah, this is
number 5.
Number 5 of 4.
Yep.
Because we've got a lot of good feedback from people.
Yeah.
Saying nice things.
And some questions for us to cover, and we're like, we've got to do more to cover all of these.
Yeah, it's like, well, I guess we gotta keep going.
And I'm okay with that.
Why is that?
Because I like doing it.
It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the topics that we got propositioned about is sobriety.
Yeah. Speaking of sobriety, and I suppose sobriety in relationship.
What do you mean by that?
Like being sober in a relationship.
Oh, I thought it was like a metaphor.
No.
Yeah. Having a relationship and being sober.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? Because I know that we both have had a different experience in the past.
Yes.
Than where we are now and who we are now.
Well, first, I think it's important to clarify the term sober.
Yeah.
Because I would say we're both not necessarily, like, we both drink very seldom. We don't completely...
We don't identify as sober or working a program or non-drinkers.
I would say that, like, I personally identify as just having a really, like, and it's been some time, but, like, have established a healthy relationship to the substance that is alcohol and drugs. And yeah, it's been a long time. A long time coming for that. My experience is being in relationship in the past and having a not so healthy relationship with the substance alcohol, and how that really was destructive for the relationship. How I would become under the influence, and how that then would really impact the way that I treated my partners and the way that I also tolerated treatment from my partners. So there's quite a bit to say to it. I don't really know how to start, but I guess we just start.
Well, I know that you used to have a nickname.
I did.
Do you want to maybe give us a couple specific examples of where substances and a lack of sobriety has affected your personal relationships?
Well, gosh, there's so many. So the nickname came in high school, and it was the Hurricane. And that is because I would definitely become a hurricane. Messy, ragey, depending on what it was that I was drinking. And this is not to be confused with smashy. Smashy is an energetic feeling that I experience, that I feel is a healthy. The ragey part was, like, especially when I drank whiskey, like literally violent and just angry, and blackout. So all of that being a recipe for my behaviors just being incredibly out of integrity, and how it would create how to create harm and intentional, though I was blacked out, still intentional conflicted pain emotionally to my friendships, my relationships. I have many, foggy memories, but the memories of waking up the next day with just that full-blown body guilt. What did I do? And feeling like I needed to apologize to everybody and be like, and it became like a script of like, hey, don't know what I did last night. And it was just almost, I feel like it was just became quote unquote normal. It was like,
it's like a pattern.
It was a pattern. That's a better way to put it. It was a pattern. And in relationships specifically, I semi-recall like unattended to conversations would boil out under the influence, if that makes sense. So as we discussed before, like the avocado story, not mentioning something right away can lead to these like moments or opportunities to have a conversation. In my unhealthier past, these conversations never happened. I never would speak up about things that were happening for me. And so they would come out very aggressive, very harmful when I had been drinking. And I would be reminded of them the next day from my partners at the time of like, you said this, like, that was really painful. And I was like, I said that? Shit. Like I was definitely thinking it. I've been thinking it for a really long time, but I wouldn't remember saying it. And then that would create the dialogue then. So there's a lot to say. I mean, there was quite a few moments where there's quite a few moments where I was the absolute, I was the person that was creating the behavior that was the behavior of being like a hurricane, and there were some events where I was the recipient to the behavior. And
like the hurricanes damage everything. They don't just damage the things that you want to damage. They damage you, damage your home, your health.
Yeah.
What do you think is the underlying cause of the partying lifestyle, or the reason that you did drink or imbibe so much?
There were quite a few things. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would say that when I was in high school, well, I started drinking when I was like 11. So junior high school, early 20s. Not every single time that I went out to drink was from a source of trauma. That's for sure. Like, but the moments that were, and the moments that I wanted to really numb were when I was afraid, like truly, I believe I was afraid to deal and process with a bunch of my trauma that would somehow show up with comparison or body image, and wanting to have like that little bit of, as they say, liquid courage, to belong, to feel accepted, to feel like I could be a bit more outgoing so that maybe I'd be liked. So there was a bunch of that was that played in that. And I know a lot of it was also stemming from that hidden stuff of being bullied. And I didn't know at the time, like when I was in high school, early 20s, that a lot of my behaviors were stemmed from that trauma of being really severely bullied, and the belief that my belief that I adopted was that I needed to be a certain way in order to be liked. When I'm the fun, playful party girl, like people want to be around me. And that like filled this void that I was lacking ever acknowledging within myself that I had at the time. But now I'm aware of it. At the time, I didn't know what was going on.
And it's like the old cliches about like, when you drink, then you're funnier and you're better looking and you're braver and more confident.
Yeah.
Right? So it kind of is a like a superficial way to address the deeper issues or the deeper beliefs. Right? Yeah. It's like when you were describing that, I heard lack of self-worth, lack of self-love, a desire to belong, a belief that you had to be a different person in order to gain love and acceptance, etc.
Yeah. And I like established, like if I were to run into some of my old friends from high school now, or even acquaintances, I was the party girl, for sure. Yeah. Like people would be like, "Where's the party, Kendra?" Like I would know what was going on. I knew where to get the drugs. I knew all the things, and
that was your identity.
That was right? my identity, and I prided myself in that because, again, it was like that outward validation that I didn't realize at the time that I was really seeking. And if I were to be alone with myself and what would come up, which is when also my depression was really starting, that's when I would really start to face like what was really happening. And I didn't have the knowledge that I know now to sit with that. And
so that identity though gave you connections, it gave you power in some sense, because you were the one that knew all the things, you had the resources.
Yeah. And turned up too high. Like I said, like I have fun memories of being at silly theme parties and what have you. Like it wasn't all a shadow of trauma, for sure. But
is it though? Like, because part of me hears that and thinks, well, really? Because I feel like if you didn't have any trauma, would you be getting wasted?
Well, we're young. We're curious. We don't know our limits.
That's true.
Like we don't learn that until later. So yeah, I feel like in the beginning when you're curious and you're experimenting, like I think that those are really powerful and important points in our life. I don't regret any of it.
And then it turns into a problem when it goes on too long.
When it's like we know our limits and we are still exceeding them, and we're choosing to feel like we're choosing to really put gasoline on the anger, so to speak.
Yeah.
With like if I say got into an argument with my boyfriend at the time, or just had a bad day at work, I'm just like, let's just drink. Like that was the coping mechanism.
To escape.
Was alcohol was the coping mechanism. And to escape, to not really feel and move through what was happening. Why am I triggered? What's really the hurt that's being presented here? And
it's interesting because I see so much of my past in your past, and slightly from a different perspective, in the sense that, like, I don't know how I didn't get arrested, and I'm really grateful that social media didn't exist.
Oh my gosh,
back in the day. I cannot fathom having that. But like, we get drunk, binge drinking. We would call it time traveling when you blacked out. Like, man, I time traveled for like an hour last night. And then you wake up and check your phone and see who you texted, what photos were taken, etc. Who you called. And then, stole shit. Like, we stole stuff. Like, put stuff in the street. We set off fireworks.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Vandalized. Lit our house on fire.
Broke shit.
Got evicted for shooting a firework at the landlord. We made a homemade bomb and set it off on the neighbor's porch. We like broke into houses and shit in drawers. It was like
wow.
We were just like misfit punks, and so I relate to the part about lashing out or like looking for another way. But I think for me, as I've reflected back on that time, it was more about, I felt a lot of anger. I felt a lot of anger at the world. I felt a lot of anger at not understanding my place in it and how I could affect it. And I also feel like I had a general lack of community, a lack of like a lack of mentors and elders who had taken me under their arm and was like, this is how you need to be a man. This is what it means to be an adult. Like, I went off to college and just ran amok. and all of my childhood shit came up, but at the time I didn't know it. I was just partying and like you, conforming to the lifestyle of most of the people that I associated with. And it was a fucking blast. Like, there's something really appealing about committing crimes. like I get it. There's some inner
it's a release,
inner excitement of knowing that you're doing wrong.
We're not saying commit crimes.
Don't commit crimes. Crimes are bad.
Do that.
And I'm not saying like I kidnapped people and smuggled cocaine over the border and stuff. It was like, we just did the dumb stuff that nowadays, as a grown man, if someone did to me, I would be so annoyed. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? That makes no sense. There's a better way to live. There's a better use of your energy. Like, come on.
But the thing is, that's why you got to have those experiences to learn that and be able to say that and sit here now.
Totally.
Like, that's why those were all very valuable.
Definitely identity as well. Like, I remember I did a semester abroad, and like at the end of the year, they gave these awards, like you do in high school, like most likely to succeed and all that shit.
Those can be very damaging.
Well, mine was most likely to have a bottle of alcohol under his pillow.
Wow.
And I remember, everybody laughed and clapped, and I had to walk up and take this award. But deep in me was this shame and sadness of like being publicly acknowledged as that guy. And I didn't love that.
Like, I didn't love being the hurricane, but there was something about playing that part that showed up. Like, that's what they expected, and it was like funny, and I got invited places. Something that came up for me too was the sort of like anarchy, punk, like rebellion, releasing. That's something I feel like we both have really in common. Is I was very much a part of and participated in the local punk scene in Edmonton and loved it.
Same.
Loved local music, loved like the camaraderie of like angst. And it wasn't all angst. There was like also a lot of like social justice. And so when I started to like really learn about more worldly cultural issues that could sometimes really stoke the fire of anger that I still had within me. But there was something about like that space that could be a release of, just teen angst, feeling bullied, that misfit feeling of I don't really fully belong. So like found myself just being the fun drunk girl that could get along with anybody. But in that was like a sort of disconnect from like, well, who am I? Like, everybody was allowed in my energy circle. And it sometimes hit a detriment.
And now here we are as personal development experts of sorts, who are coaches and who like we don't drink
barely.
We've had like 3 drinks this year, maybe?
No, we haven't drinking this year yet.
Oh, well, this is okay. Yes. But sober New Year's Eve in 2020, we drank like maybe 3 occasions, 2
maybe.
Like, and that was like not drunk. I've never seen you drunk, really.
Yeah, that's such a bizarre. Isn't that such an interesting thing? Like, all my past relationships have seen me wasted, and I've had relationships in the past that like they egg that on. They're like, have another, drink more, and with you, it's like I haven't seen you drunk. No. You haven't seen me drunk. No. And sometimes I wonder what that would be like.
We should just get wasted and do a podcast today. But that's so different than every relationship I've ever had.
Me too.
They're part of those relationships in the past, and it's not a negative or a criticism.
It's just an observation.
It's just what it was. Is you go down to the pub, or you go out and you have a few drinks, or you go to the concert and you have a few drinks, and it's so weird to me still at times to not do that. Is like this new normal. Right? Even Kelsey came over the other night for dinner at Kelsey Grant, and
shout out Kelsey Grant, we love you.
Hi Kelsey Grant. but I think she said something about drinking that I was telling a story because we had port.
Right.
We had like a glass of port the other night, and her eyes bulged out. She's like, "You were drinking? Like, you never drink."
Mm-hmm.
And she was sincere and honest. And it felt so weird to have that identity reflected back at me. This was like a week ago.
Yeah.
Of like, oh yeah, like I'm the guy that doesn't really drink.
Yeah.
But for so long, it was the opposite.
Yeah,
I was
were that
maybe
guy.
the only guy that was drinking.
Yeah.
Or like the only drunk guy.
That's so similar.
Yeah.
Isn't that so interesting? Yeah, like when I traveled to Thailand, I went on my 19th birthday. I drank every single day except for one day because one of these guys that I met when I was traveling challenged me not to drink for a day. And instead I just got really high and like bought all of this like Thai candy and just...
Well, that's the other thing for me. I often get asked like how often I smoke or what's my relationship with weed, because I have really long hair, and I have scruffy beard, and I have a nose ring, and I write about love, and I'm like the cliche. I own a van.
Yeah.
I tick all the boxes, but then often people are surprised when I tell them like I don't get high. That I've been high once in like 2 or 3 years. It's not part of my life. And it's fun to have those chats with people.
Yeah.
And just to see their surprise of like, wait, you don't? But so maybe we should talk about what it's like to be in relationship and not have those exit strategies for the night.
Well, I'd say like first and foremost, it always comes back to the relationship with yourself. Of like, why am I choosing to consume this? Like, what am I really avoiding here? And that will support discerning the relationships that you allow into your life, right? Like, I look at the relationships I have in my life, and my close, like you and like Kelsey, and like the close people in my life are, you know, they have a very different lifestyle than the friendships that I had that were the close to my life when I was drinking. Like it was just it's night and day.
There's layers to that shit.
But the more that you really go into your own work of like, you know, this isn't working out for me. I don't love feeling like shit all the fucking time.
I want to be seen as my authentic self.
Yeah, like it feels...
I want to be known. I want to share with you all the stuff I'm feeling.
Yeah, and like, at first you've got to share it all with yourself. And then it's like being seen and choosing a relationship that's also doing that for themselves. Like that's the mirror imaging there, I feel like is really important and empowering. And then being in relationship is like, I want to feel, in one part, because of some of the experiences that I've had, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, the safety, like feeling safe when you're just, you know, being you. And by that I mean, like, I've been in a relationship where as soon as I see them, they have a drink in their hand, like, I'm like, oh shit, like, I get scared because I know that the abuse is about to happen. And not physical. I know that happens. I've just experienced emotional abuse, just like general abuse at all. And just being like, okay, here we go. And like my nervous system and like just fucking with my whole overall health. And so in relationship, it's just like to not have to worry about that, because I know that you have integrity with yourself, and like you also know, like, you know your limits. And again, we barely drink.
It's like one.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh my god, I think
I've had my drink.
Like sleepy chair.
Yeah, and then I just want to lay down. I don't want to start a riot like the old days.
Your eyes get kind of sleepy, and like one's kind of shut.
And I'm like, come cuddle.
Yeah, and so like for me, it's just, first of all, establishing the safety in my own body of like, I'm not going to harm you by drinking this and by avoiding you, and like also then choosing relationships that mimic that in a way of like, okay, like I feel safe in this relationships too. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What was it in you that started that transition from being the hurricane and to now being the sober life coach person?
And again,
was it a conscious decision, or was it like a gradual transition?
It was definitely a gradual transition. But again, I want to just say that like I wouldn't readily identify myself as 100% sober.
Right.
But like I have a healthy relationship, really grateful for my relationship that I have with substance now.
Sure.
Again, like, yeah, we barely drank. But I do enjoy a good glass of port and red wine from time to time. But so it was a gradual transition. And what really came for me was my depression. And the more that I would drink, the worse my depression became. And I would see, it was awful. It was literally physically debilitating. I would the voices would get louder of wanting to commit suicide. The voices would get louder of just wanting to just numb out and just not be a participant in life, and witnessing how this was harmful to the people that were near and dear to me, my mother, my father, my sister, even my dog. And then witnessing how it made me feel for like longer periods I would go without drinking, and having more energy and feeling more connected to my body. So movement, again, for me is a part of that healing journey, because I would feel the vitality, I would feel the excitement, I would feel playful, and it was like, God, like this is so much more fun than feeling like shit. And that supported my mental health journey in itself, moving more and just being connected to, and like really developing a love for me in my body and what I can do, and the mental clarity. And so it was almost like that became like what I wanted more of, was that clarity, that clean, that this connection to myself. And then also witnessing how myself in that state, my relationships felt so much better. Like when my partner and I at the time would like, choose to like not drink for a while, our relationship got better.
Weird.
Right? For both of us. And my connection to my family, and just my work ethic, and just life was fun. And so that was like there's something to this. And then what I just really became to notice years down the road, again, it's been a grand transition. I would safely say that it's been about 3 years that I've really had a healthy relationship with alcohol. And what I come to know now is if I feel in any way emotionally fragile, and it's taken me a long time to be able to really act on this, is like, no, like there is no substance that's coming into my body, because that is a recipe for disaster.
It's a hurricane recipe.
It's a hurricane recipe, but not even like how I'll act, but like the hurricane that now has become like this internal hurricane of negative narratives, of depression, of just wanting to judge and shame. It's
so interesting to hear your perspective of the same journey that I've lived, because I hear from you things like, I wanted connection, and I wanted to be in my body, and I wanted genuine love and safety. And when I reflect back on my path, there's like none of that. It was more like I wanted power.
That's interesting.
And I wanted strength, and I wanted self-trust. And so when I say power, what I mean is, at some point I realized that if I couldn't go to a party without drinking, then the alcohol had power over me. If I thought about not drinking for a month, like that sober October or whatever it is, I used to think about that and think, oh, no way. Why would you do that? I can't stop drinking for a month. Like, why would I want to do that? It seemed like forever. And I realized that in those reflections, it was really intimidating. I was intimidated by the idea of being without alcohol for a week or a month or whatever it was. And I would hear stories about people who were sober, right? Ironically, my mom is now 8.5 years sober. But at the time, I would hear stories and like, what? You'll never drink again? That's crazy. That's crazy. But then on reflection, I realized that I was expressing those ideas from a place of powerlessness, of weakness, of like, I can't do that thing, right? And so then I kind of set off on a path of trying to reclaim that sovereignty, so to speak, of hang on, I'm not going to drink for a week. I'm not going to drink for a month. I remember while back talking to Kai Macbeth, and like she didn't drink for a year. And I was like, whoa, I want to try that, like a year. And then stopped for a while. I remember I decided to do a month, and then it was like 3 months, and at the end of 3 months I just was different. I was completely different. I'd lost the desire to drink. I'd lost that need for the edge that it provided, the escapism. But I went back to drinking at the time. So it was fascinating to hear you talk about the perhaps more feminine attractive or feminine appeal of sobriety, whereas mine, I think, was like more a masculine desire, if that makes sense.
Makes sense, but like I also relate to that too.
Yeah, like, and I was thinking too, like as I was saying that, like, yeah, but I also want to be authentic and in my body and have good connections and healthy relationships.
Feel safe. I feel like this feeling safe and trusting yourself are connected.
That's it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to trust myself. If I can't trust myself not to drink for a month, I felt like,
how is anybody else going to be able to trust you?
Well, that of course, but also, how can I trust myself to do anything for a month?
Yeah.
It seemed like the big intimidating thing, and I started to get curious about why that was. Why is it so hard to? Another aspect, I realized I hadn't had a first kiss with a woman sober ever, like almost ever, and that I thought was really like scary in a way. Like every time I've ever kissed a girl for the first time, I've been drinking. Yeah. It's like, what is that like to kiss a girl for the first time sober? Yeah. And that felt exciting and scary and weird. So I wanted to know what that was like.
Yeah, and that's like, I feel like that's very common for a lot of people too. Like for me as well, it's very rare that I've had like a first kiss that's been sober in my youth. But I just wanted to say that I also relate to that, like when you said power. I'm glad that you broke that down a little bit because I wasn't sure where you were going with that. But that essence of like feeling like something else had control over me. Like there's something that like was like I wasn't in my sovereignty. And I just wanted to reframe something that you said, that you were like, I can't not drink, or you said something like that, and I just wanted to reframe for anybody listening. It's a really powerful reframe that you've probably heard before. Is it's not that you can't, it's that you're choosing not to. And I feel like a huge part of that, this whole journey, was like recognizing that power of choice. But it is work. I mean, this substance is addictive, and it represents so much in the healing and coping mechanism. I suppose,
and it
not
felt
healing,
so
but
hard at the time, like the story around, well, you have to drink. Like you can't go to that party and be sober. That had so many stories around, well, that'll be boring, or I can't do that, or what's the point, or blah 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 blah. And I had this grandiose, like overwhelming story that felt really difficult to confront. And when in reality it's just like, no, just don't drink. Like that's it, and get curious and just be present.
But something I want to say to that I think is really important is that for anybody attempting to support their healing, it's important to, like at the very beginning, just don't put yourself in the environments that you're going to feel like you're going to be like just energetically, like really energetically challenged. Like I'm all for challenges, but if you know like it's the very beginning of something and you know it's just not going to support you to put yourself in that situation, don't put yourself in that situation. And I get
for some people though, it's like that's what my friends do. I don't have any friends that don't
and
drink.
So
I don't have any friends that don't do cocaine every day. And
so my second part to this is that you're going to need to be really honest about losing these friends. And maybe losing is a harsh term, but yes, basically like clean your environment. They're just being super radically honest that these people aren't serving me in my highest good, and no judgment towards them, but just you taking your power back. You don't need to be around these people. And in my transition, I still have so much love for a lot of the people that were, we were in the same circle. I barely speak to any of them now. And there were times I was like, I stopped showing up to the party. I stopped going to the show. And there were times that, yeah, it was difficult and it was sad. And there was times where I did feel lonely, but I was really establishing, coming back to me. Who am I without this identity? Who am I without being the drunk girl at the party? And if I go there and I put myself in this situation, am I at a place where I trust myself enough? And if the answer was no, and it's like, then don't go, because then what I know to be true is that I'll spiral into this judgment, depressive state and just want to potentially say, fuck it. And just
make some bad decisions.
Which happened a few times where I was like, okay, I'll just go. And then woke up at some dude's place feeling really guilty and like disgusted with myself and being like, why did I do that? And it's okay. I'm grateful for all the experiences, but what I learned, and if I had some counsel at the time, some of that guidance, was like, just don't put myself in that situation. Like, and what happens is you find yourself in other situations that do expand you. Like I found myself at yoga, I found myself at coffee shops, I found myself at, organic markets and these things. And my circle shifted because I was shifting the actions that I was taking for myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you had that great line about, I'm not proud it happened, but I'm grateful that it did.
Yeah.
It's sort of that.
Yeah.
Like, we learned a lot from it, and it served us for a long time. Mm-hmm. We had fun and had friends mm-hmm. and learned a whole lot of stuff about a whole lot of drugs. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And now there comes a point, I feel, where deep down you just know, like, I'm not really into this. I remember thinking at one point, like, I don't really love drinking anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, mm-hmm. I don't love it.
Yeah.
I like kind of do it and I go along for the ride. And I also started to feel like some of my other friends were in the same boat.
Yeah.
It was like, kind of look around and get an energy. Like, do we really want to have this shot of tequila right now? No one really wants to do it, but we're all doing it. Yeah, and then it just kind of was another moment along the path where it shoved me towards a different direction, I guess.
And just to come back to as well of like, being in a relationship and feeling this way. It's like having this experience, because truly this is, I would say, my first relationship where it was like alcohol isn't really a dominant factor. Not that, like, I mean, I would say maybe there's one other one that I've had where like it was there sometimes, but even still, memories of how alcohol really was impactful in a detriment, in a negative way to our relationship. For us, like we said, like, you've never seen me drunk. You've maybe seen me kind of like giggly and like I had a couple glasses of wine, and then like I'm sleepy, and like I've seen you just like, yes, similarly, but not like drunk. But we've both experienced like, wow, I have like a 2-day hangover in my body from that glass of port. I mean, but it's just knowing what's possible from this experience with you is, I think, also a really big testament, and for everybody that's listening, of like what is possible, and that I think having these conversations and being open about your relationship with alcohol, what it was and what feels good for you. And that time, like I remember when you were like, yeah, I'm just like trying this thing of just like not drinking and just seeing how it is. And then I think we had some port in Portugal on your birthday, and that was beautiful and it was delicious and it was a really good memory. But that was like also kind of inspiring for me too.
It wasn't port, it was wine. Because do you remember? It was by the lake, and
we had port before that incident.
But the story is, the wine was so delicious.
It was the best. It was so good.
You went into the back area and asked the waitress if you could take a photo of the bottle.
Yes.
And she said, it's a box of wine.
Yeah, and they showed me the box, and I was like, this is box wine? But it was so good.
Yeah.
But that was after. We had port in actual Porto, and we actually had the tasting and the whole thing. And
I was there.
I know.
Yeah. It's funny to reflect and realize that I'm the kind of dude that I used to make fun of. It's like, oh, you had one glass of wine and you're done, you lightweight, like you loser.
Yeah.
And to not only be the kind of person that I used to make fun of, but to really just savor it and like give no fucks. Like, I am. I don't drink. I don't smoke. Like,
see, that's the.
I'm good. I don't give a shit what you think about me.
Yeah,
that's the other side of it. The reclamation piece.
The reclamation and like, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you said a key word there that is just that savor. And that's what it is for me now. It's just like really checking in. First of all, like I said before, is if I'm in any way emotionally fragile, it is not happening. Non-negotiable, hard no.
I'm very well aware of your hard no's.
If anything, I don't care what's going on around me, it's not happening. But when I am like feeling like emotionally like just really connected, grounded, centered, my choice is like definitely from like this sensory experience, like, oh, I'm gonna savor this is gonna be like so like when we did have that port, it was good. And
that shot of port,
it was like,
the other thing we haven't talked about at all really is the being more sober in a general sense of sober enough to feel the emotions intensely and to really be present at all of the negative, positive, like that whole aspect. There's no numbing, there's no avoiding. It's just a full fire hose of life into your soul.
I think that's a really great thing to bring up, because that's exactly why now that I have the wisdom and just like the kind of observation that I have on my choices in the past, like that's exactly what I didn't want to feel. I was afraid of what was that, like what did it mean? Like there was so much shame and judgment that I was just drowning myself in, and I didn't want to face it. Like the night before I hooked up with some guy or something, and the next day like, oh God, I'm really embarrassed, I'm just gonna drink. Like it just was a cycle.
Not knowing how to navigate emotions. For me, it was a huge thing for years. I didn't realize it at the time that was what was going on, but looking back, it was just, I had no genuine idea what to do with pain, fear, sorrow, shame, guilt, nothing. And so I just avoided them entirely and packed them away and covered them in whiskey. And that worked for a while until it didn't.
Something else that just came up for me, which I know was a huge catalyst for my my journey with healing my relationship with substance. And I've talked about this before, and you know of this, but it was when my first love, Alex, committed suicide, and he had drugs in his system. He had been drinking, and that was like, I know it was a wake-up call for the whole community, for so many people. I know a lot of people stopped hard drugs at that time. I'm not sure if they still have, but there was a big movement that happened that was like, this is what we're facing if we don't heal this. Like we all have a very possible, we have the same path. We could have the same outcome. And that was like a very needed, hard reality check, hard truth for us to see. And I feel like just as you're saying, like that, coming to a place of just surrendering to feeling it all, to like let ourselves feel all of this. And I feel like that's something that has brought us to do the work that we're doing now, is when you do allow yourself to go there and feel so intensely everything that you've been avoiding, like what is possible on the other side of that. And
like if you're listening and you're like, no, I love wine, I'm not there, I don't want to do that, like that's fine.
That's
like
totally
no judgment.
Fine.
This isn't about shame or you should do it this way. This is just our path and our experience.
And that's why I keep saying it's the relationship to it. Like, I mean, like if you feel great and you love having your wine and you're like, awesome, that's great. If it makes you feel good and you feel like you have a good, healthy relationship, that's great. I didn't. So this journey of mine was really necessary, because I mean, I often sometimes wonder like, well, how different my life would be if I you know, for all the events.
But if you didn't do all of that stuff, and if I didn't do all that stuff with the bombs and the evictions and near arrests, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. We wouldn't have each other, and this lovely podcast wouldn't exist, and we wouldn't be in love and having a great life. So no regrets. And
there's also something to be said now too of like, yes, we are physically older. I so rather wake up and feel good and like throughout my day, and even like just one glass, like I'll feel it.
I know you complained for 3 days.
I was like, on my third day, like I can feel it in like such a cellular level now.
Come on, Kendra.
I can feel it on such a cellular level now, and I'm just like, I know my
body. You said.
I do, and I can feel it. I can feel like my body like really wanting to purge the poison. Yeah. And I'm just like, it's just not worth it for me at times. And then there's some times where I'm just like, savor.
So that's our podcast about sobriety. And if you have any topics or questions or suggestions for episode 6 out of 4 in our series, let us know. But hopefully this was helpful or informative or encouraging in some way.
I have one final question that I want to ask you, Jeremy, that I think might be supportive, is now when faced with like a choice of like, do I have a drink or not? Like somebody brings over a bottle of port or like what's your process to check in with yourself whether you want to have a drink or not?
Well, like there's still part of me that whenever I see a bottle open wants to just like smash it, like just drink it all. Be like, get in my belly. There's like the old memories of, we love alcohol. It's like this small portion of my brain is like, yes, drink it all. Like, absolutely. And so first step is to just observe that voice and be like, okay, thanks, bro. Now let the adults in my brain have some conversation around it. And similar to you, just check in. Like, do I really want this? Does it sound good? What am I doing tomorrow? Like,
that's a big one.
Why do I want this? If it is a yes, why is it a yes? Like unpacking the intentions beneath it, I suppose. That's helpful. It's nothing like rocket science, but just for me, I'm continuously trying to go back to curious awareness in the moment, like being present, checking in with my body, my heart. What actually feels good right now. For me. Not what feels good because society or culture or my friends or family would prefer an option. But what's my fuck yes?
What's my truth? And that's the sovereignty piece right there. Right?
And then being like, well, now that I have tapped into that, I know that who I am right now is somebody that honors that. So it's like, this is no. And if it's a no, now, luckily, blessedly, I surround myself with people that respect that. So it's just like, okay, it's fine.
So that's a really important piece that, I know we're wrapping this up, but for those listening, you've got to start questioning and being compassionate, but really, really observing the people you surround yourself with, that if they don't respect your choices, then there are some decisions that you've got to make.
Well, it's an interesting piece of data to consider. Right? At the least. All right. We love you. You're great.
We love you.
We do. We're proud of you. If you made it through all of those random stories about sobriety. And we'll talk at you soon.
Any questions, send them our way. We'll cover it. We'll discuss it.
Kendra very proudly describes herself as an open book. And I feel like we've been pretty candid on all that. I mean, I talked about pooping in drawers. So.
There we go.
All right. Leave you with that. Bye.
Bye.